In the Trump criminal trial, Stormy Daniels returns to the stand for cross-examination. Our legal correspondent, Arlene Richards, has the latest. Longtime Trump supporter Senator Rick Scott says the gag order against Trump is to keep him silent during the presidential election season. What he said outside of the court. An appeals court refuses to dismiss Hunter Biden's federal gun charge. His criminal trial remains set for next month. What his lawyers say. The Senate is scheduled to vote on a bill to extend authorization for the FAA, what it means for air travel and passenger safety. Innocent Falun Gong practitioners, including elderly women, arrested in Serbia ahead of a visit by Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping. NTD's Daniel Monahan spoke with one of those detained. Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Chris Beers. Stormy Daniels back on the stand earlier today in former President Trump's criminal trial. She received $130,000 in exchange for her silence about an alleged affair with Trump. Let's bring in our legal correspondent, Arlene Richards, at the courthouse. Arlene, good to see you. What is the defense attorney's focus during cross-examination today?
Well, right now there is a publisher on the stand, and just before the lunch break, they did talk to an administrative assistant who used to work for the Trump organization. But of course, the Stormy Daniels testimony is the testimony of the day. On Tuesday, the defense tried to get a mistrial on this case because they said her testimony about the alleged affair was highly prejudicial. She gave the impression that she didn't care about the $130,000 and that she just wanted to get the story out. But the defense today really pushed hard on the various deals that she made with this story, including a book and a documentary. She said she was just trying to tell her life story, but they pointed out that she made hundreds of thousands of dollars because of the Trump name. Now, you recall that on Tuesday, she said that she stopped talking to President Trump after he told her she couldn't get on The Apprentice. So today, the defense pointed out several tweets that she's made attacking Trump and even bragging about how she got him indicted. They're really trying to show the jury that she's not a credible witness and that she's motivated by money and revenge to bring Trump down.
Now, Arlene, when the defense called for a mistrial on Tuesday, they said there's no coming back from her testimony about the alleged affair. How did they handle that part of her testimony today?
Well, they looked back to an interview she gave in 2011. And just to note that she has told this story before this actual hush money payment was made. But back in 2011, she had an interview with a magazine. And they're pointing out that at that time, she told the magazine that Trump asked her out to dinner and that she happily accepted. But when in her testimony, she said that his bodyguard came to her and asked on Trump's behalf about dinner and that she initially said no. Then there's some discrepancies about whether or not she actually ate dinner, as another example. They said she said back on the 2011 interview and in other interviews that she ordered something, but she didn't remember what she ordered, but she actually did eat. This time she said that she didn't even get a dinner from Trump. So there's some discrepancies in her testimony today and also her story that she told back in 2011. And they're trying to bring out to the jury that she's really not a credible witness, that she's not telling the truth. And they also pointed out that she tells lots of stories because she is an adult film star and she makes up stories and she acts them out and she tells all kinds of stories. And they asked her, did you make up this story about Trump? But she denied it. Back to you.
All right. Thank you for keeping us updated, Arlene. Former President Trump says he's planning to appeal the gag order he's under in his hush money trial. Upon entering court this morning, the 2024 GOP presidential candidate maintained the gag order is unconstitutional. Trump told reporters that the trial is a Frankenstein case.
I just want to let you know that we've just filed a major motion in the appellate division concerning the absolutely unconstitutional gag order, where I'm essentially not allowed to talk to you about anything meaningful that's going on in the case, and many good things are going on with the case. It shouldn't have been filed. This is a Frankenstein case. They took a dead misdemeanor, they attached it to a dead alleged federal felony and zapped it back into life. So many of us are just amazed to watch us actually walk into court because it's not a recognizable crime that any of us have seen.
And Trump supporter Senator Rick Scott of Florida was at the hush money trial Thursday. Outside of court this morning, Scott says the case against the former president is nothing more than pure political persecution.
They don't want this guy on the ballot. I mean, they've tried to kick him off the ballot in the states. Now they're trying to put him in jail. They've tried everything they can because they know they can't beat him. Now I'm proud of him for standing up for all of us, because guess what? It's not going to end with him. They can go after any one of us if they want to, and you do not have the resources to do it. They can go after the former president. They can go after you.
Showing support for Trump, for his longtime friend, the former Florida governor blames Democrats for going after Trump. He says the gag order against him is their way of making sure that he has no voice during the campaign. A federal appeals court today refused to dismiss Hunter Biden's federal gun charge. His criminal trial is set for next month in Delaware. The president's son bought and possessed a revolver in 2018. Prosecutors argue he violated federal law because he was using illegal drugs when he purchased the firearm. His lawyers have argued that the case is politically motivated. The younger Biden has pleaded not guilty to all 3 felony counts. The 54-year-old also faces a trial for tax evasion in California, which begins in June as well. In a move likely to appease the Chinese regime, Serbian authorities arrested several Falun Gong practitioners ahead of a visit by Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping. Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a meditation practice heavily persecuted in China. NTD's Daniel Monahan spoke with one of the detainees who was released once Xi left the country.
The move by Serbian authorities occurred just days after Russian authorities raided 5 homes and arrested 4 Falun Gong practitioners, also ahead of a planned meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Xi. The regime has sought to export its persecution of Falun Gong beyond its borders since 1999. Falun Gong is a spiritual discipline that consists of meditative exercises and moral principles. Business owner Dejan Markovic was one of those detained.
There were 6 practitioners and 2 family members who don't practice, including my own brother. And at some point, plainclothes police just came to our doors and asked us to go with them. You don't even get a pillow there. And of course, you don't get a toothbrush. And you get very little food, and you don't have a lavatory in the rooms.
Markovic says those arrested included an elderly woman nearing 80 years old, another woman almost 70 who had previously battled cancer, and a third woman around 60 years old.
So I wonder, are we that dangerous to Xi Jinping? He came here with 400 policemen on his side, and I'm sure that at least 3,000 policemen were engaged here to protect him, and still they're afraid of 8 people, among them one lady close to 80.
An arrest warrant issued for Markovic stated that he was suspected of posing a serious threat to persons under international protection. After Xi left the country, he and the other detainees were handed a document saying the threat doesn't exist anymore. The business owner says this isn't the first time the Serbian government has followed the will of the CCP. In 2019, he says they tried to hold a premiere of a documentary called Blacklisted about the illegal arrest of Falun Gong practitioners. The film was banned from the first 3 venues they found, but the authorities couldn't ban it from the 4th as it was owned by an Austrian company.
And during that event, I know that one of the venue directors said that she was contacted by a secretary from Ministry of External Affairs, and this secretary said that Chinese ambassador told him that she will leave the country if the film is premiered.
Serbia, a member of China's Belt and Road Initiative, relies heavily on billions of dollars in investment from China. Markovic says this cooperation comes with a heavy price.
It's not that they only want to build bridges and roads, they also introduce their totalitarian regime and control over people and things like that.
Markovich says practicing Fallong Gong has dramatically improved his life.
I was not ill for one day for 19 years. I have a lot of energy. I do my job much better than before. I have family relationships much better than before.
NTD reached out to the Serbian authorities. We are still waiting to hear back from them. Those detained haven't been charged with any crimes. Markovich says that the practitioners plan to sue the government over the detention. Falun Gong practitioners in Serbia have previously brought forth 2 suits against the government, one over arrests in 2014, which they won in the country's highest court. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
More severe weather across parts of the U.S. Major storms yesterday spawned destructive tornadoes, produced massive hail, and dangerous flooding. The storms killed 2 people in Tennessee and 1 in North Carolina. The National Weather Service said water rescues were ongoing in flooded parts of Tennessee. Here's more.
The National Weather Service continued issuing tornado warnings into the night, mainly in Tennessee, but also in Missouri, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. Tornadoes were confirmed in Pennsylvania just outside Pittsburgh, also in central Arkansas and in northern West Virginia. In Missouri, baseball-sized hail was reported just southwest of St. Louis. A tornado near Nashville caused local authorities to shut down part of Interstate 65 because of damaged road signs, trees, and an overturned car. In Michigan, 3 tornadoes touched down in the state's southwest. The Kalamazoo area was hard hit, more than a dozen mobile homes destroyed.
Right now, we believe we're confirming a 16 number of people that were injured and taken to the hospital. Their injuries were all minor enough that it looks like everyone's going to be out of the hospital today.
Aerial shots show the devastation, ranging from partial to total destruction.
A tornado went through, and then about 45 minutes later, another tornado, almost on the direct same path, was coming through.
Local residents quickly came together after the tornadoes to help each other begin the long cleanup process.
People just started showing up. As soon as the tornado was gone, people whose homes were intact came out to help those whose weren't, and have started within minutes.
In Portage, Michigan, storefronts without walls or roofs were all that remained of a little shopping center. The severe weather is forecasted to shift into the southeast and mid-Atlantic on Thursday, bringing with it more hail, damaging winds, and the possibility of a few tornadoes.
The Biden administration is reportedly expected to propose new asylum changes for illegal immigrants this week. This as immigration remains a top concern for voters ahead of this year's presidential election. NTD's Dave Martin has more.
Multiple outlets report that people familiar with the matter shared details of Biden's plans. The idea is to change the point at which illegal immigrants can be found ineligible for asylum. Right now, eligibility is determined during the interview stage, months after entry into the U.S. The reported plan is to determine eligibility during the initial screening stage, hours or days after entry. Critics of the plan say it wouldn't change much because people would just be admitted to the U.S. earlier. The Biden administration previously talked about stronger changes to current immigration laws. There are no plans for those to be announced at the moment. This is Dave Martin for NTD News.
The Senate is scheduled to vote today on a bill that seeks to bolster aviation safety standards and consumer protections. Congress is up against a deadline to reauthorize Federal Aviation Administration programs. The House wants to extend that deadline to next Friday. It's trying to add an amendment that requires airlines to issue automatic refunds for canceled flights. In related news, the FAA is delaying a new rule that would increase the time off between shifts for air traffic controllers. An independent review said more time off is needed, but the FAA cites a persistent manpower shortage. The report attributed some near-miss incidents to fatigued controllers. And the U.S. Supreme Court ruled today that police do not have to provide a quick temporary hearing when they seize cars and other property used in drug crimes, even when the property belongs to apparently innocent owners. In the 6-3 vote, the justices rejected the claims of 2 Alabama women who had to wait more than a year for their cars to be returned. Police seized the vehicles, which were driven by other people who had drugs. Civil forfeiture law allows authorities to take someone's property without having to prove that it has been used for illicit purposes. Critics of the practice call it legalized theft. Justice Brett Kavanaugh wrote for the conservative majority that authorities must hold a timely hearing to determine if the owners can keep the property, but there's no requirement for a separate hearing in the meantime over temporary possession. After the break, billions of dollars of American investors' money is going to TikTok parent company ByteDance. And the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration voices concerns over Ford's recall of more than 42,000 SUVs. The automaker says a fuel injector could crack and leak fuel, potentially causing a fire under the hood. We have more after the break.
I have never seen a production any better than this, anywhere.
Breathtaking. It is absolutely stunning.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
Invigorating. It was encouraging, gave me hope.
This has just been therapy for the soul.
It's a must-see. Must see.
Make sure you see it. Make sure you see it.
Coming to Lincoln Center, NJ Pack, State Theater, Purchase, and Stamford. ShenYun.com.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes, and it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-357-4821 for your free information. That's 1-800-357-4821. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-357-4821. That's 1-800-357-4821. 1-800-357-4821. Call now.
The tempting online world is encroaching on our campus. Is unplugging cables and confiscating phones the solution to protect our children? No, we just need a clean multimedia platform. Join Ganjing Campus to leverage premium channel features, professional development courses, and kindness event toolkits tailored for teachers. Build a truly positive and interactive classroom community. Foster a pure and delightful learning environment for children.
Welcome back. The number of Americans filing new claims for unemployment benefits has reached its highest level in more than 8 months. The data offers more evidence that the labor market is steadily cooling. Today's Labor Department report follows news last week that the economy added the fewest jobs in 6 months in April. Job openings dropped to a 3-year low in March. Initial claims for state unemployment benefits increased 22,000 to a seasonally adjusted 231,000 at the end of last week. That's the highest level since the end of last August. 2 interest rate cuts are expected are back on the table for the Federal Reserve. Financial markets expect the Fed to start its easing cycle in September. Some economists believe the first rate cut will come in July. And the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says it has significant safety concerns over Ford's recall of more than 42,000 SUVs. The affected vehicles include the automaker's 2022 and 2023 Bronco Sport and its 2022 Ford Escape models. Ford had said a fuel injector may crack and leak, which could cause a fire under the hood. The car company has proposed an engine control software update and drain installation. However, it is not proposing to replace the fuel injectors. The NHTSA said Ford's plan, quote, does not address the root cause of the issue. The agency is asking Ford to answer extensive questions about the recall by June 21st, including how it settled on the new remedy. Ford says it's cooperating with the investigation. And the U.S. overtakes China as a top trading partner with Germany. Here's NTD's Don Ma with today's Business Matters.
All right, thank you very much. A recent report by Future Union, U.S. pensions, university endowments, and other institutional investors have over $9 billion invested in private equity and venture capital funds that are potentially tied to TikTok's parent company ByteDance. And of course, this comes amid government pressure for ByteDance to divest its ownership of TikTok or face a ban due to national security and privacy concerns. The billions of dollars invested here by these institutions could face uncertainty depending on the outcome of the dispute between ByteDance and the U.S. government. And of course, this is affecting the interests of millions of American users of the popular short video platform. Meanwhile, the United States overtook China as Germany's most important trading partner in the first quarter of this year. And this is according to Reuters calculations based on official data from the German Statistics Office. Germany's trade with the United States, so that's exports and imports combined, totaled $68 billion from January to March, while the figure for China was just under 60 billion euros. This is showing from the data. In 2023, China was Germany's top trading partner for the 8th year in a row. But recently, Germany has said it wants to reduce its exposure to China, citing political differences, and accusing Beijing in its first China strategy announcement last year of unfair practices. German imports of goods from China fell almost 12% year-on-year in the first quarter. And finally, U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo said yesterday a Chinese invasion of Taiwan and seizure of chips producer TSMC would be absolutely devastating to the American economy. So asked at a U.S. House hearing about the impact, Raimondo said it would be devastating, but declining to comment on how or if it will happen, adding that right now the United States buys 92% of its leading-edge chips from TSMC in Taiwan. A 2023 U.S. government paper estimated a major manufacturing disruption in Taiwan could lead to as high as a 59% increase in the U.S. price of logic chips that domestic downstream producers would have to pay. All right, thank you very much, and back to you.
A former Colorado sheriff's deputy was convicted of reckless endangerment last month in the shooting death of an emotionally disturbed 22-year-old who had called 911. Now the case is reigniting debate about whether civilians should respond to certain crisis calls instead of armed law enforcement. NTD's Andrew Thomas speaks with a criminologist to learn more.
Proponents of the unarmed model of crisis response argue that unarmed civilians are a more effective, less confrontational response to mental health and other crisis calls than armed law enforcement. But criminologist Dr. Alex Del Carmen worries about the risks. Emergency dispatch doesn't always get all the information from a caller.
You're essentially sending out people that are civilians, that are not carrying a weapon, that are not trained on self-defense, to a situation that, on appearance, it may look as if it is not a critical call, but once the individual shows up, in fact, it is an incident that would have otherwise required an armed law enforcement officer to be there.
The unarmed model also features another problem. 911 callers typically expect some kind of first responder to show up. So what happens if a homeowner encounters someone else?
In Texas, we have, the castle law, which allows us to protect our property, and it's quite generous to the homeowner. as it relates to his or her ability to protect their home. And so I worry, right? I worry that in these circumstances, you're going to have somebody that is not in uniform, that is not visibly representing city affairs. And as a result of that, they're going to be perceived as a threat. And then two innocent people are going to get hurt. And perhaps one of them is going to end up going to prison.
Del Carmen is open to the idea of de-escalation and less confrontational emergency response, but even experienced police officers can be caught off guard when they arrive on scene.
I lost a student of mine, a former student, many, many years ago that joined law enforcement. She responded to what appeared to be, or what the dispatcher told her was going to be, a report writing event. And then once she showed up, that guy was confined inside the apartment and ended up shooting and killing her. And so like this happens for real, right? This is like a real circumstance for law enforcement throughout the nation.
Del Carmen says the theory behind the unarmed model comes from a noble place, but there's not enough data yet to determine if the benefits outweigh the risks. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Chris Pierce. We'll have more stories from the U.S. and around the world. Join Tiffany Meyer for the NTD Evening News at 6 p.m., 3 Pacific.